On July 8, 2014, a healthy 28-year-old man walked into an airport in Bulgaria to fly home. He had a ticket. He had his passport, his phone, his wallet, his luggage. He was minutes from going home. Instead, security cameras captured him doing something no one has ever been able to explain. He is sitting in the airport doctor's office. A construction worker opens the door, and the young man's face changes. He shouts that he doesn't want to die here. He leaps up. He drops everything, his bags, his passport, his phone, his money, and he runs. The cameras follow him. He sprints through the terminal, looking back over his shoulder as if something is chasing him. He bursts out of the glass doors. He crosses the parking lot. He scales an 8-foot barbed wire fence, and he vanishes into a field of sunflowers beside a forest. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. More than a decade later, no body, no trace, no answer. He simply ran off the edge of the known world in broad daylight on camera. This is the story of the most famous missing person on the internet, and of the question no one can answer. What was he running from? To understand how strange this is, you have to understand who Lars Mittank was. Because he was not a troubled man. He was not a reckless man. He was, by every account, completely ordinary. Lars was born in 1986 and grew up in northern Germany. He worked at a power plant. He had a girlfriend, a wide circle of friends, and a close relationship with his parents, especially his mother, Sandra. People who knew him described him with the same words again and again: quiet, reserved, dependable, kind. According to his mother, he had no history of mental illness. None. No breakdowns, no paranoia, no warning signs. He was simply a steady, reliable young man, living a steady, reliable life. In late June 2014, Lars did something a little out of the ordinary for him. He went on holiday abroad. For the first time in his life, he left Germany. He and 5 friends booked a week at Golden Sands, a lively beach resort on Bulgaria's Black Sea coast, packed with young European tourists, cheap bars, and nightlife. It was meant to be exactly what it sounds like, a fun, uncomplicated summer trip. And for most of the week, that's precisely what it was. One friend, Paul, later said the week went by really fast. They relaxed on the beach, swam in the pool, played football, went clubbing. Lars was relaxed. He was in a good mood. His friends noticed nothing wrong at all. Nothing was wrong. Nothing at all. Until the very last night of the trip, when something happened that would set everything else in motion. On the night of July 6th, near the end of the holiday, Lars and his friends were at a bar in town, and there, over something as small and stupid as a disagreement about football, Lars got into an altercation with a group of other German tourists. The details are murky. Some accounts say Lars was attacked by the men he'd argued with. Others say those men hired a local to do it. What's clear is the result. Lars was beaten. He walked away with an injured jaw and, more importantly, a ruptured eardrum. It was a minor injury in the grand scheme of things, but it had one significant consequence. When Lars saw a local doctor, he was told he should not fly. A ruptured eardrum and the pressure changes of air travel don't mix. There was a risk of serious damage. The doctor prescribed him an antibiotic to prevent infection and told him to wait a few days before flying home. And so, when the week ended and his 5 friends flew back to Germany as planned, Lars stayed behind, alone. In a foreign country he'd never been to before, where he didn't speak the language, recovering from a beating, waiting for his ear to heal so he could finally go home. He found a cheap room at a small hotel near the airport, called the Hotel Color. His friends were gone. He was on his own. And it was here, alone in that hotel, that the quiet, dependable Lars Mittank his family knew began to disappear, and someone terrified took his place. On the night of July 6th, near the end of the holiday, Lars and his friends were at a bar in town, and there, over something as small and stupid as a disagreement about football, Lars got into an altercation with a group of other German tourists. The details are murky. Some accounts say Lars was attacked by the men he'd argued with. Others say those men hired a local to do it. What's clear is the result. Lars was beaten. He walked away with an injured jaw and, more importantly, a ruptured eardrum. It was a minor injury in the grand scheme of things, but it had one significant consequence. When Lars saw a local doctor, he was told he should not fly. A ruptured eardrum and the pressure changes of air travel don't mix. There was a risk of serious damage. The doctor prescribed him an antibiotic to prevent infection and told him to wait a few days before flying home. And so, when the week ended and his 5 friends flew back to Germany as planned, Lars stayed behind, alone. In a foreign country he'd never been to before, where he didn't speak the language, recovering from a beating, waiting for his ear to heal so he could finally go home. He found a cheap room at a small hotel near the airport, called the Hotel Color. His friends were gone. He was on his own. And it was here, alone in that hotel, that the quiet, dependable Lars Mittank his family knew began to disappear, and someone terrified took his place. On the morning of July 8th, Lars packed his bags, took a taxi to Varna Airport, and texted his mother to let her know he'd arrived. On the surface, this is a good sign. A man doing a normal thing, going to catch his flight home. The early airport footage even shows him walking calmly through the terminal, bag in hand. Before he could fly, he needed one last thing, medical clearance for his ear. So he went to see the airport's doctor, a man named Kosta Kostov. And this is where we have a rare, precious thing in this case, a direct eyewitness to Lars's final moments. Dr. Kostov examined Lars and told him what he wanted to hear. His ear was healing. He was cleared to fly. He could go home. But Lars didn't leave. Kostov later described him as nervous and erratic. Lars lingered, asking anxious questions about his medication, seeming reluctant to go. And then, the moment everything broke, the airport was under renovation at the time. As Lars sat there, a construction worker in a uniform opened the door to the office, and Lars reacted as if the man were death itself. According to Kostov, Lars began to tremble, and then he shouted the words that have echoed through this case ever since. "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here." He jumped up, he dropped everything, and he ran. What happens next is the footage the whole internet knows. The reason this case became famous. The security cameras capture it all. First, we see Lars in the corridor. He's a tall, fit young man in a yellow t-shirt. He's not sprinting yet. He's jogging, almost casually, but he keeps glancing back over his shoulder, watching, checking. Then he reaches the glass doors of the terminal exit, and the moment he's through them, something in him detonates. His casual jog explodes into a flat-out, desperate sprint. This is not a man in a hurry. This is a man running for his life. He tears across the airport parking lot. He reaches the perimeter, an 8-foot fence topped with barbed wire, and he climbs it. A grown man, in street clothes, throwing himself over barbed wire, something you only do if staying still feels more dangerous than the fence. He drops down on the other side, and he runs into a vast field of sunflowers that borders a forest. The camera watches him go, growing smaller, until the sunflowers and the trees swallow him. And that is it. That is the last confirmed image of Lars Mittank that exists in the world. A yellow shirt, disappearing into a field, at the edge of an airport, on a summer morning in 2014. He left behind everything a person needs to exist in the modern world. His passport, his phone, his money, his identity. And he ran into the trees. And he never came out. The response was immediate and massive. When it became clear Lars had vanished, Bulgarian authorities launched a full search. The terrain around the airport, the fields, the forest, the scattered abandoned buildings, was combed by police. They brought in search dogs, including cadaver dogs, trained to find human remains. They used drones. They searched the area thoroughly, the obvious first assumption being that a distressed man who ran into a forest might be found there, hurt or worse. They found nothing, not a body, not a scrap of clothing, not the yellow t-shirt, nothing at all. Lars's mother, Sandra, refused to give up. When the official search wound down without answers, she hired a private investigator named Andreas Gutig. He watched the airport footage over and over. He checked hospital records across Bulgaria for unidentified patients. He contacted homeless shelters. He traveled to Varna and handed out flyers with Lars's face. And still, nothing. Over the years that followed, the sightings began, the way they always do in these cases. A truck driver thought he saw Lars hitchhiking near Varna a year later. A homeless man in Poland was said to resemble him. Someone claimed to spot him in Canada. In 2016, a barefoot man in Brazil sparked a wave of hope. But he turned out to be a different missing person entirely. Not one of these sightings was ever confirmed. Every single lead dissolved into nothing. Lars Mittank had walked into a sunflower field in Bulgaria, and as far as the evidence shows, simply ceased to exist. So what happened to Lars Mittank? Over the years, the theories have divided into a few camps. The first, and the one many find most likely, is medical. Lars had been prescribed an antibiotic, and some in his family and some doctors have pointed out that certain antibiotics, in very rare cases, can cause severe psychiatric side effects, paranoia, hallucinations, a break from reality. It's a compelling idea. It would explain the terror, the belief he was being hunted, the panic at the sight of a uniformed stranger. There's just one problem. According to Dr. Kostov, the airport physician, Lars never actually took the antibiotic. Kostov said he hadn't even filled the prescription. If that's true, the medication can't explain his behavior. And Kostov himself said he remains genuinely baffled by what he witnessed. The second theory is a mental health crisis, that Lars, under the stress of being beaten, injured, and stranded alone in a foreign country, suffered a sudden psychotic episode from an undiagnosed condition. His paranoia would then have been a symptom, terrifyingly real to him, but not to the world outside. And yet his mother insists he had no history of any such illness. The third theory is the darkest, that the fear was real, that the men from the bar fight, or someone else, truly were pursuing him, and he was running from a genuine threat. But police reviewed the airport footage exhaustively and found no one chasing him. The construction worker was investigated and had no connection to Lars. And if he was harmed in those woods, where is he? Cadaver dogs found nothing. Every theory hits a wall. The medical explanation, the psychological explanation, the sinister explanation, each one answers some of the questions, and none of them answers all. Lars Mittank was a quiet, ordinary young man who went on holiday, got into a small fight, and then ran from something only he could see, straight off the edge of the map. Today, he would be 40 years old. His mother has never stopped looking, and the footage still plays on millions of screens. A man in a yellow shirt running toward a field, forever about to disappear. This has been The Dark Stories. Sleep well.